Hello everyone, I am Mr. Night Truth. I know many of you enjoy listening to these videos as you fall asleep. So before you drift off, I'd love for you to leave a comment letting me know where in the world you're tuning in from. And if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Alright, now let's get comfortable, relax, and let's go down into the story.
Claire Song never liked grocery shopping at night, but her shifts at the bookstore left little choice. By the time she pushed through the sliding glass doors, the streets outside were already quiet, and the store's fluorescent lights buzzed against the silence like an insect trapped in a jar. She pulled her coat tighter, baskets swinging at her side as she navigated the empty aisles. Bread, milk, cereal, cat food. The rhythm of routine calmed her, but even as she moved down the frozen section, she felt it, the prickling weight of eyes on her back. At first, she ignored it. Grocery stores at night always felt eerie, she told herself. Too much space, too much quiet. But when she glanced down the aisle, she noticed him. A man in a grey hoodie, standing too still, his cart empty, his gaze fixed not on the shelves, but on her. Claire turned away quickly, forcing herself to focus on the boxes in front of her. Paranoid, she thought. You're tired, that's all. Still, her hands shook as she placed items in her basket. At the checkout, she tried not to look, but he appeared again, 3 lanes over, buying nothing but a bottle of water. When she risked another glance, their eyes met. His mouth twitched into something that wasn't quite a smile. The cashier broke her thoughts. Long night, huh? Claire blinked, startled. Yeah, just needed a few things. The cashier gave a polite nod, scanning items with practiced indifference. Claire paid quickly, heart thudding in her chest, resisting the urge to look behind. Her again. She stepped out into the cold. The parking lot stretched wide and empty, lit only by 2 flickering lamps that cast long, shuddering shadows. Claire pulled her keys from her pocket, walking briskly toward the sidewalk. Her car had broken, down weeks ago. Home was a 10-minute walk. Behind her, soft footsteps echoed. Claire tightened her grip on the grocery bag, forcing herself not to turn. She told herself it was coincidence, that people walked the same streets all the time. Still, her pace quickened. Don't be stupid, she whispered under her breath. It's nothing. A text buzzed on her phone. She pulled it out quickly. It was from her sister, Leah. Don't forget Mum's call tomorrow. Love you. Claire exhaled shakily and typed back. Love you too. Walking home. Call later. She considered asking Leah to stay on the line, but the thought felt silly. What would she even say? There's a man behind me, but maybe it's nothing. Her steps echoed faster. The footsteps behind her matched. By the time she reached her building, her nerves were frayed. She fumbled with the keys, glanced over her shoulder and saw no one. The street was empty, silent, but for the hum of the street lamp above. Relief surged through her chest. She hurried inside, the heavy door shutting with a reassuring thud. The lobby smelled faintly of detergent and old mail. She climbed the stairs, groceries digging into her hand, until she reached her door. Inside, the familiar warmth of her apartment wrapped around her like a blanket. She set the bag on the counter, kicked off her shoes, and locked the door with a firm click. Safe. Finally, safe. She allowed herself a soft laugh, shaking her head at her own nerves. Get it together, Claire. You're fine. She unpacked groceries, humming faintly to herself, trying to let the ordinary rhythm of home dissolve the night's unease. The fridge door closed with a reassuring thump. Her cat padded out from the bedroom, meowing for food. Life was normal again. At least, that's what she believed. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound in Claire's apartment. She curled up on the couch with her tea, scrolling absently through her phone, letting the warmth seep into her hands. The night outside pressed against the windows, dark and heavy, but in here, everything was safe, or it should have been. Every few minutes, Claire caught herself glancing at the door, making sure the deadbolt was still in place. Each time it was. Solid. Locked. Secure. She laughed under her breath. "You're ridiculous," she muttered. "He didn't follow you. It's fine." The cat rubbed against her leg, demanding dinner, and she stood to pour kibble into the bowl. The sound of crunching filled the silence. Ordinary. Normal. That was all she needed. But then came the sound. A faint creak, somewhere deeper in the apartment. Claire froze. Her hand hovered above the counter, fingers tightening around the edge. She told herself buildings make noises, pipes expand, floors shift, neighbors drop things. Still, this didn't sound like a random creak. It sounded deliberate, like weight moving across floorboards. Her throat tightened. "Hello," she whispered, voice barely audible. The silence that followed was worse than an answer. She set down her mug with trembling hands and forced a laugh. "Old building," she told herself. "That's all." Still, she checked the locks again. The door was secure. The chain was hooked. Every window latched. Relief washed through her, though it felt thin, fragile. She grabbed her phone, hesitating, then dialed Leah. Her sister picked up on the second ring. "Claire, it's late. Everything okay?" Claire sank onto the couch, clutching the phone tighter than she meant to. "Yeah, just needed to hear a voice. Thought I heard something weird, but it's probably nothing." "You sure? You sound off." "I'm fine. Really. Just being jumpy." Leah was quiet a moment, then said gently, "Lock your doors. Double check. The windows. And maybe don't stay up too late, okay?" Claire smiled faintly, despite the unease curling in her chest. "Already did. Promise good night." "Good night. Love you." The call ended, leaving her with the hum of the fridge and the faint tick of the clock. She pulled a blanket around her shoulders and settled back, determined to sleep. Yet even as her eyelids grew heavy, her mind replayed the night. The man's empty cart, the way his eyes had lingered, the sound of footsteps behind her, the creak inside her apartment. Safe. She was safe. She repeated it until sleep finally claimed her. Claire woke to the sound of water. It wasn't loud, just a faint trickle, as if a faucet hadn't been turned off all the way. Her eyes snapped open, her body frozen beneath the blanket. For several seconds she lay still, heart pounding, waiting to convince herself it was nothing. Maybe the cat had nudged something. Maybe she'd left the bathroom sink running. But then came another sound, a slow, measured step. Her breath caught. She sat up, straining to hear, her pulse loud in her ears. The apartment was small. Kitchen, living room, one bedroom. There weren't many places for noise to hide. And yet, the sound was unmistakable. Someone was moving. She whispered to herself, "No, no." The door was locked. But the truth pressed, harder with every second of silence. If the door was locked, then whoever was inside had always been inside. Claire rose slowly, her knees trembling, and reached for her phone. The screen's glow burned her eyes as she opened it, then froze when she saw the signal bar. No service. Just like that, the lifeline she counted on had vanished into dead space. A whisper of movement drifted down the hall. She clutched a heavy candle from the coffee table, the glass cool against her palm, and stepped toward the sound. The apartment was different in the dark, elongated, distorted. The hallway stretched endlessly, shadows clinging like cobwebs. Her cat darted past her, hissing, tail puffed like a bottle brush. Claire flinched, heart lurching, but forced herself to keep going. Each creak of the floor beneath her feet felt deafening. When she reached the bathroom door, she nudged it open with the candle jar. The faucet was running in a thin stream. Nothing else. She exhaled shakily, relief loosening her shoulders, until she caught sight of the mirror. On the foggy surface, a handprint smeared across the glass. Too large to be hers. Claire stumbled back, slamming the door shut, clutching the candle to her chest like a shield. Her thoughts whirled. She had locked the door, checked every window. No one could have come in, which meant they had never left. The man from the store. Her chest constricted. Images of him returned in fragments. His empty cart, the way his eyes never blinked. How he always stayed just behind her, just close enough. A sound scraped from the kitchen. A drawer sliding open. Slowly. Deliberately. She forced herself to the corner of the hallway, peering around just enough to see. A man stood at her counter, his back to her, pale skin, greasy hair falling over his ears. He wore the same jacket she'd seen in the store. His hand hovered over the silverware drawer, fingers twitching. Claire pressed a trembling hand over her mouth to keep from crying out. Then the cat hissed. The man turned, slowly, his head tilting until his eyes landed on hers in the dark. For a moment, neither of them moved. The silence between them felt alive, buzzing, heavy. "Claire," he whispered. His voice was soft, almost affectionate, as if they'd known each other for years. Her stomach dropped. He knew her name. She backed away, every instinct screaming at her to run. "Get out," she managed, her voice cracking. The man smiled faintly. "I've been here. Longer than you think." She darted into the bedroom, slamming the door shut and throwing the lock. Her hands shook as she grabbed the dresser and shoved it against the frame. The wood groaned, but held. The apartment was too small. No escape. Just 4 walls, 1 door, and him. She clutched her phone, praying for a signal. Nothing. Only the dark reflection of her own terrified face. Outside the door, his voice came, calm and steady. "You didn't even notice me. Not at the store. Not when I followed you up the stairs. Not when I stood in your closet waiting. You live so loud, Claire. Every door you open, every step you take, I hear it all." Her body went rigid. Closet. The bedroom closet loomed in the corner. Its door cracked open an inch. A rush of cold sweat slid down her back. She lunged, slamming it shut, shoving a chair under the handle. His laugh drifted through the wood. Too late. The sound of something scraping against the dresser rattled the door. He wasn't kicking, not yet, just pressing, testing. Claire's chest heaved, every breath ragged. She scanned the room desperately. Window, 2nd floor, not too high. She could climb. She yanked it open, the night air rushing in. Rain slicked, the fire escape, the metal glistening under the streetlight. Behind her, the door groaned as the man shoved harder. She swung one leg over the sill, gripping the frame. But then, her cat bolted into the room, crying. Her heart fractured. She couldn't leave it. Not here. Not with him. The dresser shifted, scraping loudly as the man forced the door. His breath echoed through the gap. "You can't leave me. We belong in the same space. Always." Claire snatched up the cat, tucking it against her chest, and clambered onto the fire escape. Rain stung her skin, slippery and cold. She pulled the window shut behind her, just as the bedroom door burst. Open. The man's silhouette filled the room. He moved to the glass, pressing his palm against it. His eyes never blinked, never looked away. "Run," he whispered, his voice muffled by the glass. "I'll still be here when you come back." Claire ran until her legs threatened to give out. Rain soaked her hair, plastering it to her face, her arms tightening protectively around the trembling cat. Each breath tore her chest raw, but still she pushed forward, desperate for distance. Behind her, the building loomed in the downpour, its windows like black eyes staring. She didn't dare look too long, didn't dare confirm if he was still watching. She burst into the street and spotted headlights. A car slowed at the intersection, the driver rolling down the window. "You all right?" the man called. His voice was cautious but kind. Claire staggered closer, gasping. Please, please call the police. There's someone. He's in my apartment. The driver's eyes flicked to the soaked cat, clutched in her arms, then back to her pale face. He nodded quickly, fumbling for his phone, but when he lifted it, Claire's blood froze. The screen was blank, no signal. Her own phone still had none. His, too. It was as if the block itself had been swallowed by static. Minutes later, 2 officers arrived, called by the driver once his phone reconnected down the street. They guided Claire back to the building, her body trembling violently. Every instinct screamed to stay away, but she followed, clutching the cat like a lifeline. Inside, the apartment was silent. The rain tapped against the windows, dripping from the fire escape where she had fled. The front door was still locked, untouched. The officers swept through each room, bathroom, kitchen, bedroom, empty. Claire's chest tightened. No, she whispered, shaking her head. He was here. He was right here. One of the officers crouched, examining the bathroom mirror. The smeared handprint glistened faintly. He frowned but said nothing. The other officer checked the dresser. In her bedroom, still shoved awkwardly against the broken doorframe. Looks like someone forced it, he said. Claire swallowed hard, her throat burning. She waited for them to say they believed her, that she wasn't imagining this, but all she saw was the quiet exchange of glances between them. Hours blurred. She gave a statement, her voice breaking as she recounted the grocery store, the shadow in every aisle, the whisper of her name in the dark. She expected reassurance, expected someone to promise he'd be caught. Instead, the words she got were, clinical, we'll make a report. We'll keep patrols in the area, and then, finally, try to get some rest. Rest. That night, Claire couldn't sleep. She moved through the apartment like a ghost, every shadow pressing against her skin. The cat stayed close, ears pricked, tail twitching at every creak. She double-checked the locks, triple-checked the windows, pulled the dresser tight against the bedroom door again, and still, she felt him. The weight of his eyes, the echo of his whisper. I've been here longer than you think. The words stuck in her mind like a splinter. Longer than you think. Weeks passed. She stayed with friends when she could, though guilt always dragged her back to the apartment she still paid for. The officers never found him. No fingerprints. No sign of forced entry. Nothing. But the little things betrayed his presence. A photo frame slightly tilted. A cupboard door left open when she knew she'd shut it. Her cat hissing at empty corners of the room. Claire's friends told her it was trauma, that her mind was filling in shadows with fear. But she knew the silence of the apartment wasn't empty. One evening, as summer light faded through the blinds, Claire returned to gather more clothes. She moved quickly, trying not to linger, telling herself it was just another chore. But as she passed the hallway mirror, her steps faltered. Something was written in the condensation on the glass, not smeared like before. Written. Welcome home. Her bag slipped from her shoulder, clothes spilling to the floor. The apartment was silent. But Claire knew. She wasn't alone. Not now. Not ever. Not ever. The glow of Hannah's ring light painted her small studio apartment in soft whites and shadows. At 23, she had carved a fragile place for herself in the endless ocean of TikTok, a world where attention came in quick bursts and disappeared just as quickly. Every night after her shifts at the cafe, she set up her tripod, leaned against the plain beige wall of her apartment, and filmed. Her following had grown fast. Dance trends, makeup tutorials, and candid late-night rants about loneliness had made her oddly relatable. Comments poured in, thousands of strangers reminding her she was seen, valued, and yet, inside her empty apartment, she often felt invisible. Fame, she was beginning to realize, didn't erase solitude. It only magnified it. The first time she noticed the flicker, she thought nothing of it. It was a quick green speck reflected in the mirror behind her. She didn't even catch it until the next morning while editing. A dot, there for half a second, like a pixel glitch. She shrugged, trimmed it out, and posted. But the second time, it wasn't on the mirror, it was on her wall. She had been filming a casual Q&A video, answering fan questions about her skincare routine, when her eyes caught the tiny green shimmer on the plaster just above her shoulder. Her lips faltered mid-sentence. She blinked, shifted, then forced a laugh at herself. Maybe it was the reflection of her phone's LED light, maybe something outside. Still, she deleted the clip. Something about the dot unsettled her. That night, as she sat on her couch, scrolling through her mentions, the memory returned. Her hand tightened around her phone. "It's nothing," she muttered under her breath, trying to soothe herself. "Why? Do you sound weird?" her best friend Mira asked on the phone later that night. "I don't. I'm just tired," Hannah lied. She hesitated, then added, "Actually, something kind of creepy happened while filming. There was this little green dot, like a laser pointer, on my wall." Mira chuckled. "Probably dust on the lens. Or maybe you've got a ghost in there." Hannah laughed too, but it came out thin, forced. "Yeah, a ghost with a laser pointer. Exactly. Don't overthink it. You're always overthinking things." "Yeah," Hannah repeated, but her eyes drifted toward the wall as though expecting to see it again. The following evening, she set up her tripod once more. The habit was comforting, a ritual. She adjusted the ring light, brushed her hair into place, and began. Her followers wanted late-night honesty, so she gave it to them. Stories about working double shifts, about pretending to smile when she didn't want to, about how TikTok was both her escape and her cage. Halfway through her ramble, she froze. There, it was again. A single, unwavering green dot. Not in the mirror, not on her phone screen, on the far wall, moving slowly, sliding until it hovered above her shoulder. Her chest tightened. She lowered the camera, heartbeat racing, and pulled open her curtains. The night outside was silent, the street lamp glowing faint orange. No cars, no movement. She stood there for a long time staring at the glass, trying to catch the source, but nothing appeared. Finally, she let out a shaky breath, turned off the camera, and sat down on the edge of her bed. Later, while editing, she noticed something she hadn't before. The green dot always seemed to appear when she looked her most comfortable, when her laughter was genuine, when her guard was down. It lingered like an eye that never blinked. Her skin prickled. For the first time since starting her channel, she didn't post that night. She lay awake in the dark, her phone clutched in her hand, staring at the ceiling. Every faint sound outside made her flinch. Sleep wouldn't come. And just before dawn, as exhaustion finally pulled her under, her last thought was a question she couldn't silence. What if it wasn't a glitch at all? The next morning, Hannah brewed her coffee in silence, her apartment feeling smaller than it had the day before. Sleep had been broken, shallow. Every time she drifted off, she saw the faint glow of that green dot hovering on her wall. She told herself she was imagining things, yet the unease clung to her like humidity, heavy and inescapable. Her notifications were exploding. Followers begged for new content. "Where's tonight's video? Don't leave us hanging, Hannah." Their affection usually comforted her, but now it only felt like pressure. Eyes everywhere, waiting, watching. That night, she forced herself to record. She laughed on cue, danced through a trending audio clip, but her smiles looked brittle even, to her own eyes. The dot didn't appear, at least not while she was filming. Still, she couldn't shake the paranoia. It wasn't until she checked her inbox later that her stomach dropped. Among the sea of DMs was one that stood out. No profile picture, no username she recognized, just a single message. "Nice curtains. The beige ones with the little tear on the left side. You should fix that before your next video. Her hands went cold. She snapped her head toward the window. There it was. The tiny tear near the bottom corner of the curtain. Barely noticeable unless you were close. How could anyone know? She called her brother immediately. Do you think someone could... I don't know. See into my place? She asked, voice trembling. Junho groaned on the other end. You live on the 3rd floor. No one's climbing up there just to peek in. It's trolls, Hana. You're feeding them by even reading those DMs. This one's different, she whispered. It's not just random insults. They described my room. Things I never showed. A pause, then his frustrated sigh. Block them. That's it. Don't spiral. You always do this. But what if Hana? His tone was sharp now. It's the internet. People guess, people stalk profiles, they piece things together. Just ignore it. She swallowed, nodding though he couldn't. See her? Yeah. Okay, you're right. But as she ended the call, her gut told her otherwise. This wasn't a guess. Someone knew. The following nights blurred together in restless loops. Hana recorded less and less, yet the dots seemed to grow, bolder. Sometimes she saw it flicker across her wall in the corner of her eye. Once, when she stepped out of the shower, a faint green shimmer darted across her ceiling before disappearing. The messages continued. Red sweater looks good on you. Wear it more often. You shouldn't leave your window cracked at night. I liked when you laughed at 2:13. Do it again. Every word pressed into her chest like a weight. Someone was watching her, not just online, but here, inside the fragile privacy of her life. She double-checked the locks, taped over the peephole, closed her curtains tightly. Still, the dot found her. Still, the messages came. One night, unable to take the silence, she started a live stream. Her face appeared on screen, framed by the glow of the ring light. She forced a smile, answering questions, pretending things were fine. But the comments flooded in faster than usual. Look behind you. What's that on the wall? Green dot again. Her blood ran cold. She turned slowly, and there it was, drifting across the wall like a tiny hunter's sight, pausing just beside her shoulder. Gasps filled the chat. Is this a prank? OMG, call the cops. Hana, end the stream. Her throat tightened. She ended it abruptly, heart hammering as she shut off the light and pulled her curtains tighter. In the suffocating dark, she stood frozen, phone clutched in her fist. Later that night, as she lay on her bed staring into the shadows, the realization hit her with brutal clarity. The green dot wasn't random. It wasn't a glitch. It was a laser, pointer, and the hand holding it had to be somewhere close. Her phone buzzed. Another DM lit up the screen. You finally noticed. Her breath caught, a sob lodging in her throat as she hurled the phone to the floor. Hana hadn't left her apartment in 2 days. The curtains stayed drawn, the locks checked again and again, until her hands were raw from twisting the metal. The K. Messages hadn't stopped, short, taunting bursts that arrived at odd hours. You look tired. Don't cry, I'm still here. Smile for me. She wanted to delete everything. Her account, her videos, her whole digital presence. But fear rooted her in place. If she disappeared, would that anger him? Would he come closer? On the 3rd night, exhaustion forced her into a reckless decision. She opened TikTok and hit Go Live. The ring light flared to life, washing her pale face in artificial glow. Her voice wavered at first, but steadied as thousands poured into the stream. She told herself if she was live, if people were watching, maybe she'd be safe. Hey guys, she said, forcing a smile. I know I've been gone a few days, just needed a break, but I'm here now. Comments scrolled endlessly, waves of hearts and encouragement. For a brief moment, the loneliness eased. She wasn't alone. She was being seen. Then the chat shifted. What's that on the window? Behind you! The green dot again. Her breath hitched. She turned, slowly, and there it was, glowing faintly against the curtain, sliding upward until it hovered near her face. The sight stole every word from her throat. Gasps filled the stream. OMG, call 911. This isn't funny. He's outside. Hannah dropped the phone. The stream tilted, capturing only the ceiling as her frantic footsteps echoed. She shut off the light, plunging the apartment into shadow. Her ragged breathing filled the silence. Minutes later, red and blue lights flared through the blinds. The police had come, tipped off by terrified viewers. 2 officers stood in her living room, their presence both grounding and surreal. One shone his flashlight across the curtains, the walls, the window frame. Nothing. No one. No one. "Mom, are you sure you weren't imagining it?" the older one asked gently. "I wasn't," Hannah whispered. Her voice cracked. It was real. He's been watching me for days. He sent messages. He knows things about my apartment. The younger officer jotted notes, but his face betrayed doubt. "We'll do a sweep of the building," the older man assured. "But so far there's no sign of anyone. No laser pointer, no suspicious activity." Her chest tightened. Their words should have brought relief, but instead they deepened the dread. Whoever he was careful, too careful. When they left, Hannah sank to the floor, clutching her knees. The silence afterward was unbearable. She picked up her phone with trembling hands. The live stream replay was already circulating online. Millions of views, strangers dissecting every second, freezing frames of the glowing dot. And as she scrolled through the comments, her stomach dropped. One viewer had written, "Check your reflection at 4:22. There's someone behind the curtain." Her thumb hovered, trembling, before she tapped. At 4:22, the replay froze. The green dot hovered on her window, and in the faint reflection of the glass, blurred but unmistakable, was the outline of a figure standing inside her building. For 2 nights after the police visit, Hannah refused to film. Her phone sat on the dresser, silent, screen dark. She slept with the lights on, curled on the couch, every shadow in her apartment a threat. But sleep never stayed long. Every creak in the walls, every hum of the pipes made her jolt awake. Her following only grew louder in her absence. Notifications piled into thousands. "Where are you? Are you safe? We saw him." Her name trended, speculation spreading like wildfire. Some called it a hoax, others swore she was in danger. The noise was suffocating, and yet, in a way, it made her feel less alone. But isolation crept back in when the voices stopped, when the phone was quiet. Alone in her apartment, the silence screamed. She tried leaving. Packed a bag, stepped out into the hall, but her hands shook so violently she couldn't even lock the door. Her legs carried her back inside, to the only prison she knew. It was safer to stay hidden, she told herself. Safer not to be seen. Until the night her account posted a video she hadn't made. It appeared without warning, just past midnight. Followers flooded her DMs, tagging her, asking if it was real. When Hannah opened the app, her blood turned to ice. The video showed her asleep. Her body curled on the couch, blanket pulled to her chin, hair scattered across the pillow. The angle was wrong, low, steady. Not her tripod, not her phone, someone else's. She froze, unable to breathe, as the video played on. A faint green glow shimmered over her chest, steady and deliberate, like a sniper's aim. For 30 endless seconds, the camera lingered. No sound but her breathing. Then a whisper, so faint it could have been imagined. "I told you I'd find you." The screen cut to black. Her hands shook violently as she replayed it, desperate for proof it wasn't real. But every frame was undeniable. The blanket, the chipped mug on the table, the shadow of her own face slack with sleep. The comments poured in, wild with panic. "This isn't acting. She's not safe. Call the police now." This is real. Someone's inside. Hannah staggered through her apartment, searching. Behind the shower curtain, under the bed, inside the closet. Every corner felt smaller, darker. The walls seemed to lean closer, suffocating her. She pressed herself against the front door, heart pounding, but couldn't open it. If he filmed her once, it meant he had already been here. Maybe he was still here. Maybe he was waiting for her to run. Her phone buzzed again. Another notification. A second video had been uploaded. This one was shorter. The footage was shaky, moving down her narrow hallway. Each step echoed faintly, the sound of boots on wood. The camera turned toward her bedroom door, closed, as it always was when she slept on the couch. The handle twisted. Slowly. Quietly. Then, before the door could open, the video ended. Her scream tore through the apartment. She hurled her phone across the room, the screen cracking on impact. Panic ripped through her chest as she grabbed her keys and ran to the door. But just as she fumbled with the lock, a soft noise froze her in place. A click, her phone screen lighting up again. Another upload. She didn't look. She couldn't. The glow illuminated the darkened room anyway, casting long shadows across the floor. Somewhere behind her, faint and steady, a green dot appeared, hovering on the wall, then sliding across until it stopped on the center of her back. Her breath hitched, silence stretched, and then everything went black. Ethan Cross sat in the half-light of his dorm room, the cheap fluorescent bulb buzzing faintly above him. The clock on his desk blinked 1:42 a.m., a reminder of how late, or how early, it really was. Sleep had been avoiding him for weeks, maybe months, ever since he'd started college. He had friends, in the loose sense of the word, but none who called him first. Most nights ended like this, scrolling endlessly, searching for something that made him feel less invisible. His phone screen lit his pale face as he flicked through short videos, each one faster, louder, more desperate than the last. The algorithm knew what he wanted before he did. Pranks, dares, reckless stunts performed by strangers hungry for followers. Ethan lingered on one clip longer than he should have. A boy about his age downing pink capsules, laughing, bragging about hallucinations, the caption daring others to try the Benadryl challenge. The comments were a mess of laughing emojis and warning signs. But the view count, millions, spoke louder than either. He leaned back in his chair, heart thumping. Nobody at school noticed when he skipped meals. Nobody texted him unless they needed homework answers. But if he went live, tonight, if he joined the trend, people might finally notice. They'd have to. On his desk, he arranged the capsules carefully, their glossy pink shells catching the sterile light. He lined them up like soldiers ready for duty, his hands trembling but deliberate. He adjusted the angle of his phone, checked his reflection. His smile looked too wide, too forced, but he kept it anyway. For once, he wanted to look like someone worth watching. He tapped Go Live. The screen filled with numbers as strangers entered, usernames scrolling like a tide. He couldn't hold back. Some dropped laughing emojis, others asked what he was doing. Ethan grinned at the attention, the small high of being seen. "All right, guys," he said, voice pitching higher than normal. "Guess what we're doing tonight? No more boring Ethan. We're going big." He shook the bottle for emphasis, the rattle of pills cutting through the silence. Tyler, 98. "Bro, don't be stupid." Stargirl, XO. "Do it." Laugh track 22. "You won't," Ethan chuckled, trying to make it sound natural. "Tyler, relax, man. It's just a trend. People do it all the time. Look, I'm not about to chicken out on camera." He reached for the first capsule, tossed it back with a gulp of soda, and lifted his arms in mock victory. "See? Easy." The chat flared with claps and cheers. More viewers joined. The number climbing gave him a rush stronger than caffeine. His palms still shook, But now it felt like adrenaline, not fear. He took 3 more, one after the other, holding them up to the lens before swallowing. His grin widened, manic. The glow of the phone screen reflected in his eyes, twin stars in the dim dawn. The capsules gleamed under the desk lamp, half the row already gone. His throat tightened slightly, but he pushed the thought away. This was proof. Proof he wasn't forgettable. Not so boring now, huh? He muttered, barely above a whisper. Another comment flashed. Tyler 98. Ethan, stop. Seriously. But he brushed it aside with a laugh that sounded brittle even to him. It's fine. It's just a game. Everyone wants a show, right? 10 capsules. In. His voice began to slur. The words dragged behind his tongue, sluggish and heavy. He blinked hard, trying to keep his vision steady. The cheering comments blurred into a river of neon. He reached for another, his hand missing the bottle the first time. A nervous laugh slipped out. Whoa, guess it's working. The chat exploded. Some begged him to quit. Others egged him on, delighting in the unraveling. Ethan's grin faltered, just for a second. He shook his head, squeezed his eyes shut, and forced another swallow. He wanted the rush back, the high of being watched. He wanted proof that tonight he wasn't just background noise. But the glow from the phone seemed sharper now, almost burning his vision. His breathing grew shallow, uneven. He leaned closer to the screen, as though trying to hold himself upright against it. Then, without warning, the live stream cut to black. The capsules still sat lined up under the buzzing light, their shine untouched, glowing faintly in the silence. The screen flickered back to life seconds after cutting out, as if Ethan had fumbled with his phone and propped it up again. The angle was crooked now, tilted upward from the desk, showing more of the ceiling than his face. But he leaned forward, bringing himself into frame. His eyes looked glassy, pupils wide, his grin stretched thin as though stitched onto his face. See? Still good, he slurred, words dragging. Told you. I'm not weak. The capsules clinked against the bottle as he shook it once more. His hand wavered, overshooting the desk before steadying. The glow of the desk lamp made his skin look washed out, pale like paper. He placed 3 more capsules on his tongue, forced them down with soda, and coughed hard as they scraped his throat. The chat exploded. Stargirl XO. OMG, stop, this is scary. Tyler the 98. Ethan, call me now. Ghostwatcher. Bro, this is not worth it. Laugh track 22. Dude's gonna trip balls. He chuckled weakly, a thin rasp. Relax. It's all part of the fun. But his gaze flickered nervously to the corner of the room, as if someone else was standing there. He blinked, shook his head, muttered, "Not real, not real," before trying to laugh it off. The words scrolling by blurred together, a kaleidoscope of warnings, jokes, and panicked emojis. Ethan squinted, leaning closer to the lens, as though trying to focus on a single comment. His forehead glistened with sweat. Inside his head, the world began to twist. The buzzing light above grew louder, humming like a swarm of angry bees. The shadows on the wall deepened, stretching long, bending toward him. He rubbed his eyes, then jerked his head up, startled. "Did you see that?" he whispered. They moved. The chat fired back instantly. Concerned, Fan 91. Who moved? Tyler, 98. Ethan, please stop. I'm calling campus security. Sinner. Hallucinating already. He pressed his palm to the desk, nails biting into the wood. No, it's fine, just shadows. His voice cracked on the word, and he laughed, too loudly, forcing the sound like it could cover the trembling underneath. The camera trembled as his elbow knocked the desk. His face came in close again, pores and sweat visible. His lips were dry, cracked. You're still watching, right? Not boring anymore, huh? His chest heaved as he downed another 2 pills. The audience count spiked. The screen filled with comments, half horrified, half entertained. all feeding the momentum he couldn't step back from. Anonymous. Call 911 now. Shadow lurker. He's gone, bro. Look at his eyes. Tyler, 98. I'm begging you, end it. He tried to smile again, but his head drooped. His words slurred worse now. Vowels dragging, consonants crumbling. Good. Just tired. The room tilted. The phone camera caught him swaying side to side, then jerking upright with sudden, sharp movements. He pawed at his skin as though brushing off insects. His eyes darted wildly. Get off me! Don't touch me! His voice cracked into a shout. The chat scrolled faster, frantic. Stargirl. MG, this is bad. Concerned fan 91, someone call police now. Laugh track 22, yo, this is messed up. The shadows crawled for him again, long arms reaching across the floor. He kicked the desk, knocking the bottle over. Capsules spilled across the wood, scattering like pink raindrops. He pressed himself back into his chair, clawing at the air. No, don't pull me under. The glow of the phone made his face ghastly, highlighting the panic etched into every line. Sweat streamed down his temples, dripping onto his shirt collar. His breathing rasped, shallow, uneven. He grabbed the edge of the desk with white knuckles. In his mind, the room was sinking. The air pressed heavy against his chest. The buzzing bulb became a roar. The walls tilted inward like jaws ready to close. He slammed his hand against the desk to ground himself, but even that felt unreal, slippery, distant. Still watching, he gasped, staring dead into the lens, pupils blown wide. His lips twitched into something between a grin and a grimace. Don't! Look away! Please! The chat blurred again, scrolling faster than his eyes could follow. His lids fluttered, struggling to keep open. His body sagged forward, nearly slipping off the chair. The camera caught his face close up. Pale, drenched in sweat, lips tinged faintly blue. Tyler, 98. Calling 911 now. Stargirl XO. End the stream. OMG. Ex-sinner. This isn't funny anymore. His hand stretched forward, trembling, as though trying to push through the screen and reach whoever was on the other side. Stay with me, he murmured, voice breaking. Don't leave me alone. For a long moment, he sat there, eyes glassy, body swaying. Then, suddenly, his head snapped to the side, staring at something invisible in the corner. His mouth opened. In a silent scream, he clawed at the air, his chair screeching back across the floor. The feed shook violently as his hand struck the phone. The image toppled sideways, landing crooked against the desk, capturing only his torso now. His body convulsed, jerking, breath ragged. The spilled capsules gleamed under the harsh light, scattered across the wood like remnants of a dare gone too far. The chat screamed in a flood of capital letters, frantic emojis, desperate pleas. The sound of Ethan's breath rasped closer and closer to the microphone. Then, silence. The live stream cut abruptly to black. Tyler sprinted down the dorm hallway, lungs burning, his phone clutched tight in his hand. The screen still glowed with Ethan's live stream, frozen now on a sideways image of the desk and the corner of his friend's body. He could hear nothing, no voice, no movement, just the flood of desperate comments racing past. He wanted to believe it was some sick joke, that Ethan would pop up laughing, saying it was all staged. But the silence told him otherwise. His sneakers slapped against the floor as he reached their door. He fumbled with his key, fingers shaking so hard the metal scraped against the lock before it fit. When the door finally swung open, the smell hit him first. The sharp tang of spilled soda mixed with something chemical, bitter, like medicine. The room was chaos. The desk was overturned. A trail of pink capsules scattered across the wood and floor like shattered candy. The lamp buzzed, flickering. And there was Ethan, collapsed against the carpet, his body twisted, chest rising in shallow, uneven pulls. His lips were pale, his forehead slick with sweat. His phone lay nearby, its lens still glowing faintly, broadcasting his downfall to strangers. "Ethan!" Tyler dropped to his knees, grabbing his friend's shoulders and shaking. "Wake up! Come on, man, wake up!" His voice cracked into a scream. He slapped lightly at Ethan's cheek, desperate. Nothing. The live stream chat continued to scroll, a storm of capital letters. "Call 911. He's not breathing. Please help him." Tyler had already dialed. His voice trembled as he shouted into the phone, rattling off the dorm address. "My friend, he's overdosing. He's not waking up. Please hurry." Minutes stretched into forever before help arrived. Tyler pressed his ear close, listening for breaths, counting seconds that felt like hours. Ethan's chest stuttered, then paused, then rasped again. Tyler pressed down in frantic compressions, crying as he worked. "Don't do this, Ethan! Don't you dare leave me like this!" Then came the knock, loud, urgent. The door burst open with a crash as paramedics rushed in, red and blue lights spilling through the hall windows. "Move aside," a woman barked, her voice firm but calm. Tyler scrambled back, his hands smeared with sweat and spit. He pressed himself against the wall, trembling, watching as gloves and equipment surrounded Ethan. Check pulse. Airways compromised. Push 1 milligram naloxone. Their voices were steady, practiced. But Tyler could see the grim set of their jaws, the heaviness in their eyes. Ethan's body jerked as chest compressions resumed, his head lolling with each push. The spilled pills crunched under a boot. The room filled with the sterile hum of machinery, the clipped rhythm of medical commands. Tyler pressed his fists into his hair, rocking slightly. Guilt gnawed at him, sharp and merciless. He had told Ethan not to do it, typed warning after warning, but he hadn't been there. He should have stopped him hours ago, before the bottle was ever opened. "Ethan," his voice broke into a sob. "I'm sorry, man. I'm so sorry." But Ethan didn't stir. The paramedics worked with precision, but their calm grew heavier with each passing minute. One of them glanced at the clock, muttering something low to the other. Tyler's chest sank. Finally, after what felt like a lifetime, the lead paramedic leaned back, sweat dripping from her brow. No response. Time of collapse too long. She exhaled, heavy. "Call it." The words hit like a hammer. Tyler's vision blurred as tears welled. The room around him tilted. Pill bottles, scattered capsules, glowing phone, all swimming in his sight. The screen still flickered, but the live stream had finally cut off, ending without ceremony. Thousands of strangers were left staring at nothing. The paramedics zipped their bags, the silence heavier than the sirens outside. One of them gently covered Ethan's body with a white sheet, leaving only his hand exposed, limp and pale. The flashing lights painted the walls red, then blue, then red again, colors that washed over Ethan's still form like waves. Tyler pressed his back to the wall, gasping, his heart thudding like it might break his ribs. He wanted to scream, to smash the phone still buzzing on the floor, but all he could do was stare. The glow from its dead screen seemed to taunt him, reminding him that Ethan's last moments weren't private. They had been consumed, dissected, replayed, and they would live on long after Ethan was gone. Weeks passed, but the dorm room where Ethan collapsed remained sealed, a thin strip of police tape across the door. For most students, life moved on, midterms, parties, the dull rhythm of campus noise. But for those who had seen it, Ethan's final live stream clung like smoke that refused to clear. The video had been deleted, then re-uploaded, then stitched into endless reaction clips. Commentators broke it down frame by frame, some condemning the recklessness, others chasing clicks from the horror. His last moments were no longer private. They had become spectacle. Ethan Cross wasn't remembered as a student or a friend or a son. He was content. His mother, Laura, sat before a small camera in her living room 1 week after the funeral, her eyes swollen from nights without rest. She didn't speak much, just a few words the reporter captured before she dissolved into tears. He, Thought people would like him, she whispered, voice breaking. That's all he wanted. The clip went viral too, clipped and captioned, passed around until even strangers repeated her grief like a soundbite. Tyler couldn't escape it. He stopped sleeping, scrolling endlessly through new re-uploads despite knowing what waited for him. Every time, the same frozen image. Ethan's unfocused eyes catching the glow of the screen, a half smile twitching on his lips. A smile that wasn't real, wasn't steady. It was the mask of someone begging not to vanish. At night, Tyler swore he could still hear Ethan's last words, slurred and desperate, bleeding through the static of memory. Stay with me. Don't leave me alone. He remembered the way Ethan's hand had stretched toward the lens, as though he had been reaching for the crowd he thought would save him. Online, the comments hadn't stopped. They scrolled on, endless. Even now, REP Ethan. He was just a kid. Clout killed him. LOL weak. The cruelty stung worse than the sympathy. For every stranger mourning, another mocked. Tyler closed his laptop, but the ghost lingered. It wasn't just Ethan he saw. It was the reflection of his own failure, his own helplessness, replaying in every feed. The permanence of it all gnawed at him, a tragedy captured in pixels, locked into the bloodstream of the internet forever. No burial, no silence could erase it. And somewhere, on thousands of screens across the world, Ethan's final blurred smile was still frozen, looped, dissected, replayed, like a shadow that would never fade. Epilogue, shadows that don't fade. Even months later, the dorm hallway still felt empty without Ethan's laughter, though the glow of his phone lingered in memory. Colleges posted warnings, news outlets recycled footage, and online forums debated responsibility, but none could stop the endless loop of his final livestream. Parents whispered to their teenagers about the dangers of viral dares, yet screens everywhere still flickered with Ethan's frozen smile. Tyler stopped answering messages. Each re-upload was a punch to the gut, a reminder that he had been too late, that a friend's life could vanish between the scroll of a screen and the blink of an eye. His nights were haunted by the digital echo of a boy who only wanted to be seen, only wanted to matter. Somewhere, in a shadowed corner of the internet, the clip thrived. Millions would continue to watch, dissect, and replay it. The line between tragedy and entertainment forever blurred. Ethan's voice, slurred and pleading, his half smile, distorted by pixels, remained. Not alive, not gone, just a shadow, a warning, a ghost stitched into the endless scroll, and the world kept watching, kept watching. Hannah Kim had grown used to silence. It hung heavy in her one-bedroom apartment, broken only by the hum of the refrigerator and the muted clatter of traffic 3 floors below. Nights stretched long and shapeless since she had moved in 6 months. Earlier, the kind of nights where scrolling through TikTok became less of a distraction and more of a routine lifeline. That's how she found the filter. A new viral effect, tagged everywhere as the ghost detector, claimed it could pick up on paranormal energy and outline figures invisible to the eye. Most of the videos were silly. Teens pretending to scream when a ghost appeared near their closet. Couples faking jump scares for laughs. Still, something about the trend tugged at Hannah's curiosity. Alone at nearly 2 a.m, she decided to try it herself. She positioned the phone, hit record, and laughed nervously as she tested the effect. The filter mapped her body in faint neon green. Nothing strange. But then, behind her shoulder, the screen pulsed. A second outline flickered into view, tall and rigid, hovering by the bedroom door. Her heart thudded. What the hell? Hannah muttered, forcing a chuckle. She turned her head, half expecting to see Mina, her best friend, sneaking in for a prank. Of course, the apartment was empty. When she glanced back at the screen, the shadow outline was gone. Hannah exhaled shakily. Just a glitch. She deleted the clip, but curiosity itched at her fingers. A few minutes later, she opened the filter again. This time, nothing appeared. She walked through the apartment, sweeping her phone across the kitchen, the bathroom, and, finally, the bedroom. Empty. She laughed at herself, embarrassed by how quickly she'd panicked. By morning, she had almost forgotten about it. Almost. The next night, after another long shift at the cafe where she worked, she tried again. The neon frame outlined her figure as before. And then, in the exact same spot by the bedroom door, the second outline appeared. Still. Waiting. A cold prickle crawled up her neck. She tapped record, whispering into the microphone. "Okay, guys, either this thing is broken, or..." She swallowed hard, her throat dry. "Or my apartment's haunted." She uploaded the clip, tagging it with the filter's trend hashtag. Within hours, comments trickled in. "OMG, I see it too." "That's so fake lol, do better. Try again at 3 a.m. Scrolling through them made her skin tighten with a strange mix of excitement and dread. Maybe it was fake. Maybe TikTok wanted people to see patterns. But then why did the outline keep showing up in the same spot? That night, Hannah called Mina, holding the phone close to her ear while staring at the doorway. "You're overthinking this," Mina said flatly. "It's just pixels, like when Snapchat gives you dog ears even if you're half out of frame." "I swear, Min," Hannah whispered. "It's the same place every time, like it's waiting." "Then stop filming it," Mina said. Problem solved. But Hannah couldn't. The third night she filmed again. Her phone camera trembled in her hand as she panned toward the door. The filter sparked, and there it was, the shadow, taller than before, closer. Hannah froze, unable to breathe, the glow of the screen flickering against her pale face. She forced a laugh, but it came out brittle. "Guess my ghost's back," she whispered, trying to keep her voice steady. "Say hi." But the longer she stared, the less it looked like a trick of pixels. It didn't sway or glitch. It stood perfectly still, as if aware of being watched. And for the first time, Hannah felt sure she wasn't alone in her apartment. Hannah barely slept after that third night. Every creak of the building made her jolt, awake, clutching her phone as though the glowing screen could shield her from what lingered in the dark. By morning, she told herself she was being ridiculous. It was a filter, a trend, a joke. And yet, she opened the app again. The video from the night before had blown up. Thousands of views, hundreds of comments. Strangers argued in her mentions, dissecting the figure behind her door like crime scene analysts. Some called her a liar. Others swore they'd seen the same thing in their own homes. Hannah's stomach twisted as she scrolled. It wasn't fame. She wanted. It was proof. Proof that what she saw wasn't only in her head. That night, she set the phone up on a tripod facing her living room couch. The filter activated, humming faintly as it traced her outline. She sat still, trying to smile for the camera, but her eyes kept flicking toward the doorway. Minutes passed. Nothing. Then, a flicker. The figure appeared again, but not by the door. This time, it sat directly on the couch beside her, its neon outline pressed shoulder to shoulder with hers. Hannah's breath caught. Her lips trembled as she leaned away, phone still rolling. "Okay," she whispered shakily, voice cracking. This isn't funny anymore." She posted the clip. The internet devoured it. Why did it move? "Girl, get out." Fake, as hell. Nice editing, though. The disbelief stung worse than the fear, because Hannah had felt something. An icy brush against her arm as she sat there frozen, and when she replayed the clip, her body visibly flinched at the exact second the shadow appeared. That wasn't fake. The following night, she stayed awake until 3 a.m., convinced the hour itself might matter. The building was silent, the streets, outside, abandoned. Hannah crept through the apartment with her phone, the filter outlining every surface in cold green light. In the kitchen, nothing. In the bathroom, nothing. She turned toward the living room. A hollow sound, like a footstep, echoed from the bedroom. The filter pulsed. The figure was no longer at the door, no longer on the couch. Now it stood in the center of her room, towering, unmoving. Hannah's chest tightened. She could hear her own heartbeat in her ears as she whispered into the phone. "It's not the filter. I know it's not." Her words trembled into silence. For 3 nights, Hannah avoided the filter. She forced herself to watch harmless videos, sitcom reruns, anything to drown out the thought of the shadow waiting in her room. But no amount of denial could erase the memory of it standing there, silent and tall, outlined in unnatural light. By the 4th night, a knock came at her door. It startled her so badly she nearly dropped her phone. When she opened it, Mr. Park, from across the hall, stood there, an older man with tired eyes and the kind of posture that spoke of years carrying burdens no one else could see. "You're the one making those ghost videos, aren't you?" he asked, voice low. Hannah's mouth went dry. "You've seen them?" He nodded slowly. "It's dangerous, what you're doing." Confusion flared into defensiveness. "It's just a filter, just an app." "No," he said firmly, shaking his head. "Not in this building." She blinked at him, unsettled by the certainty in his tone. "What do you mean?" He glanced down the hallway, then stepped closer. "Someone died in your apartment, years ago. A young man. They said he ran away, but no one ever saw him leave. When the police came, there was blood in the bedroom. They cleaned it, repainted, replaced the floors, but..." His voice trailed off. Hannah's stomach twisted. "But what?" Mr. Park's eyes darkened. "Some stains don't wash out." That night, Hannah couldn't stop staring at the hardwood. Near her bed, she knelt down, fingertips brushing against faint discolored patches she had always assumed were just old watermarks. But now, knowing what she knew, they looked different. Bloodstains. Her hands shook as she pulled up old news articles online. The story was buried deep, but she found it. Local tenant missing, evidence of foul play suspected. A name, Lee Jun-ho, age 23. His body had never been recovered. The article mentioned the exact apartment number. Hers. She leaned, back against the wall, phone trembling in her hands, while the filter hovered on screen. When she finally activated it, the outline appeared again, standing precisely where the stains lay, as if tethered to that spot. Her chest tightened with dread. Later she called Mina, voice unsteady. "Min, it's not random. The shadow always stands on the stain." "Stop," Mina begged. "You're spiraling. It's pixels, that's all. Delete the app." "No," Hannah whispered. "It's him. Jun-ho. He never left this place." Hannah hadn't left her apartment in 3 days. Food delivery bags piled by the door, her curtains stayed shut, and her phone never left her hand. She told herself she wasn't obsessed, only documenting, only proving what no one else wanted to believe. But the truth was simpler. She was afraid to stop watching. Each night, the figure grew bolder. At first, it lingered by the door. Then it sat beside her on the couch. Then it stood over the stains in her bedroom. Now, when she filmed, it shifted. Slowly, deliberately, it was moving closer. That night, Hannah set her phone on the dresser, angling it toward her bed. She told herself this would be the last recording. One night of evidence. Then she would delete the app, move out, maybe even leave the city. She spoke into the camera, her voice hoarse from lack of sleep. "If anyone sees this, you have to believe me. It's not a filter. It's here." She hit record and climbed into bed. For hours, she lay awake, staring at the faint red light on her phone, listening to the apartment breathe, the refrigerators hum, the radiators hiss. Then, beneath it all, something else. A soft shuffle, like bare feet against wood. Her eyes burned as she forced them shut. Eventually, exhaustion dragged her under. Morning light spilled weakly through the blinds. Hannah sat up, reaching for her phone with shaking hands. The recording was still running. She pressed play, her stomach a knot. At first, nothing, just her tossing, turning, muttering in sleep. Then, at 2:47 a.m., the filter pulsed. The figure appeared at the doorway. Frame by frame, it drifted forward, slow and patient. By 3:12, it was standing at her bedside. The outline leaned closer, hovering inches above her sleeping face. Hannah's breath hitched. She froze on the video's final frame, her own body, eyes closed in sleep, and the faceless shape bent over her like a shadow trying to seep inside. Her hands shook so violently she nearly dropped the phone. No, 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 no. Her voice cracked in the empty room. She replayed it again and again, hoping to catch some glitch, some digital hiccup. But the figure never pixelated, never glitched. It moved with purpose, like it knew the camera was there, like it wanted to be seen. The next nights blurred together. Hannah barely ate. She barely slept. She only filmed. Each recording showed the same thing, the figure creeping closer, lingering longer. Sometimes it brushed against her hair. Sometimes her body twitched, reacting to a touch she couldn't feel. By the 5th night, she stopped uploading. What was the point? The comments were a mess of jokes and insults. The strangers who once begged for updates didn't live in her apartment. They didn't hear the whispers crawling through the walls at 4 a.m. They didn't feel the ice-cold air settle over their chest at night. Hannah did. On the 7th night, she left the phone recording again, too tired to stay awake. This time, she didn't wake up. Weeks later, police arrived after neighbors complained about the smell. The door was locked from the inside. The apartment was silent, curtains drawn, food bags molding near the entrance. There was no sign of Hannah. What they did find was her phone, still propped on the dresser. Battery somehow clinging to life, replaying, the same recording on loop. The officers leaned in, squinting at the screen. At first it looked empty, just a woman sleeping soundly in her bed. Then, faintly, the filter flickered, an outline standing beside her, faceless, motionless, watching. One officer muttered, uneasy, "These kids and their apps." But the longer they watched, the quieter they grew. Because when the figure leaned over Hannah, its head slowly turning toward the camera, the outline sharpened, clearer than before. And though the video froze on that final frame, the faceless shape still seemed to look directly at them.